365 days, but I treat every day like it's my last. I'm only concerned with building on the future, cause I can't change my past. Positive vibes for positive lives. She just giving you that truth and shifting your mind. It's more mental than you realize. It's up to you to take control, cause this world is cold and negativity gon' take its toll. Now we've been told any day could be your last. I'm embracing every moment and I cherish every laugh, every smile, every hug, every kiss, every touch, every person in my life that I care about and love. But wait, maybe I'm getting too emotional. That's exactly what they say you ain't supposed to do. Suppress your feelings, never talk about your pain. Can't appreciate the sun without acknowledging it rains, right? That's right. So this a moment of clarity, and make sure you always protect your energy. You stay focused and your life gon' be lit. And you are now rocking with Celeste the Therapist. Let's go.
Hi, beautiful people. So if you are watching me on the replay, thank you so much for watching me. I appreciate you. My name is Celeste. I'm a therapist from Boston. I come on to talk to people who are doing things to empower the lives of others by sharing their story. And I also like to come on to talk about relationships. And it's not just intimate romantic relationships. There are all types of relationships. And if you think about your everyday, we have relationships with different people in different ways. And one thing about dealing with somebody else is that there are going to be things that may come up, and some of us don't really know how to deal with it. So in order to do that, I have asked the amazing, wonderful, there's so many adjectives to describe him, to be like a part of this with me. And he said yes, and I'm grateful, and I'm going to add him to the stream. Hi to my grateful relationship person. How are you?
Hey, you forgot my name. My name is you. I saw your eyes roll up and to the right, like my relationship person, whose name is, I think, Jeff. Thank you very much.
I wanted you to introduce yourself to the audience.
Oh,
Jeff.
I see. That was a little bit. That was studio magic, and I stepped on it. All right. I'm Jeff. I'm a executive coach and facilitator, and I like to help people solve problems. And I love to help people solve their own relationship problems and, frankly, get in their business.
Yes. Yeah. And I'm grateful for you, because people write about you to me, and they love the way that you love the way that you talk about issues, because it makes them like shift a little bit. You do it very what's the word? I think for me, I'm very subtle. You're very like blunt. Let's get this done.
All right, Daryl, I appreciate that. When you said people write to you about me, I was hoping it was about my looks, but maybe we'll get some more of those.
Maybe down the road, but not yet.
Right now, I'm tired of being respected for who I am. Why can't people objectify me? Please.
Thank you for being here. So what we do is people write in, or sometimes during the show, people ask questions. So we do have a few questions that we are going to answer, and I'm going to condense this and put this up on the screen so that you all can see the questions. So we're going to jump in, and you know what?
So people submitted these anonymously, right?
Yes, sir.
Right.
So
and I have not seen them at all. So I'm just as surprised as the audience.
Yes. Save show. Okay, yeah, I can put it right here. So my best friend has a friend who is not really good for her. I don't want to go into details, but I want to know, how can I have a conversation about it without sounding like a hater?
Okay. You want me to go first, Celeste?
Yeah. So, in my line of work, this is a very common thing that comes up. So I would love to hear what you have to say about this question.
Yeah, well, I think, I don't want to go into details, kind of handcuffs us. But what I will say is already there's a little shift in mindset that might be helpful, which is right now, my best friend has a friend who's not really good for her. I might change that to my best friend has another friend who I'm not sure is good for her, or who I'm not sure is as good for her as she thinks, or something like that. Basically, to acknowledge that maybe you don't know what you're talking about. Maybe. I'm not saying you do or don't.
Yeah.
But maybe you should have a dialogue. Instead of saying, how do I change someone's mind? You first start with, how do I understand somebody's point of view? What do you think about that, Celeste?
Yeah, when you say, how do I change somebody's mind? I feel like you say that a lot. And I think we do that a lot in a lot of our relationships, not just intimate ones. I think that's a good way to kind of start it off because we don't know. I mean, like, we don't know what that other person might be providing for her. So yeah, that's a really good point that you're making.
Yeah, you don't really know all that. You're only privy to what you're there for or what you're told, but you don't really know the totality of the relationship. She might say, "Oh yeah, I know, girl," or when that's how we play, or whatever it is. If you feel like their relationship is toxic or negative in some way, or the friend's bringing them down. I mean, you say, "Well, look, I'm interested. Tell me, like, you hang with Lisa. Tell me about Lisa. Like, how would you describe Lisa?" And if I admit even that she might go, I don't know, Lisa's Lisa. Why are you asking? That could happen. But I just mean a way of coming at it where you don't assume that you have the answer. And the only problem is that other people don't already know what you, the genius, knows.
That's true.
You know what I mean?
And just, to play.
No,
And to play devil's advocate, I think that sometimes when we've been, because it says best friends. So when I think of people calling somebody their best friend, they've been friends for a long time. So sometimes we can be overprotective of our friends. And then this other person is probably new in that person's life. So there may be a little bit of a territory thing happening where your ego may be seeing things in a certain way because maybe you're not getting the same. And I don't, this is all I know right now, but I'm just kind of answering this in a general way, just so that, this person or anybody that's going through this can like really think about that maybe I might be overprotective because I've known this person for a long time. But if that's not the case and you didn't go into details and there's really something going on that's affecting that person, definitely if you are going to have the dialogue with your friend, don't come at it in an accusatory way or bringing that other person down because already I'm going to be on the defense if that's me. So really be mindful on the way you broach the situation or the conversation, and be very specific. I would definitely write down what you want to say so you're not talking about it from an emotional way. Maybe even if you write it down, you'd be like, dang, I don't even know what I'm talking about. Like, it's not really as deep as I thought it was. But definitely like write it down so that you're able to be very clear and concise with what you want to say. And it doesn't come from an emotional place. I don't know. Does that make sense?
It does. And I wonder, when you say write it down, you don't mean email your friend.
No.
Right. Speak to them so that you can add context and they can see your face and hear your tone of voice. But write it down so you're not rambling about, I don't know, she's just extra. You know what I mean? You're just saying, she just thinks, you just got nothing, but you're just trying to say, I don't like them. Instead, you want to kind of lay it out and say, here's my critique. Here's my thoughtful critique. I see why you hang with them because X, but I worry that Y is holding you back. You're trying to do your let's just say you're trying to do your studies and she tries to have you out every night and then she browbeats you if you won't go out with her. Let's just say that would be a very concrete one. Right. And so you write that down. But if you can't, as Celeste said, if you can't point to a thing, you just go, she's just shady. And you say, well, how? Just shady. Okay. It just sounds like your personalities don't clash, which is why she's the friend on the other side. We all have that, like, different friends, but the friends don't mix. I got my school friends, and my great friends, or whatever it is. I got my couples friends and my single friends.
That's so true. That's so true. And sometimes when, as we get older, that's when the split, I don't know how old this person is, but as we get older, that's when the split starts to happen when we are like, whether somebody goes to college or somebody gets this type of career. And then there's this friction that can happen, that happens a lot. But I think sometimes we can get in our head about it because maybe we're acting different around that corporate friend or different around that childhood friend. But it doesn't mean that they're completely bad. Right. And go ahead.
Well, I'm just saying, so we're not invalidating the question. You could be right. You could just be like, look, the friend steals out my friend's wallet and then smokes crack with it. Okay, that's pretty like directly bad. even so, if they're choosing to hang out, I would be a little more careful than saying, look, that friend, let me tell you to you straight, that friend, they're bad. It's more like, explain to me what's going on. Maybe she shares your concerns and she'll say, you know what? I've been thinking that too. And this is helpful. Or maybe she'll say, actually, that's not what happened. You thought she was doing an impression of someone else that's bad. And you thought you overheard that conversation. That wasn't what she was saying. So really the point is to be humble.
Yeah. And one of the audience members, hey, Ms. Grant, says that, another issue, if the person may be in danger and you're concerned, speaking the truth is important. Do you think speaking the truth is important and risk losing a friend if there's like actual danger involved?
What is it? What do you think that means? What if actual danger is involved? Like,
let's say like they're on a crime, doing crimes, or they're doing things that can lead them in jail or lead them and more abusing drugs.
Right. Like in a
obviously,
gang
we don't know the issue. Yeah. Something.
Like
it doesn't have to be that violent, but yeah. Would you risk losing a friend over like telling them the real raw deal?
Well, again, I would, but before telling, I would start with asking. Right? Like, okay. I never knew you to rob banks. And then you started hanging with Lisa. Now you've robbed 3 banks. I'm surprised at this turn. So tell me about this. Tell me about hanging with Lisa and what's so good about it. You know what I mean? Rather than just starting off with only an idiot robs banks, even though that may be true. Right. That's just not how people are most receptive. But at a certain point, I personally think it's ethical to draw a line and just say, well, look, I love you, but I'm not going to hang with you while you're doing X, Y, and Z. Just as a quick example, I have a friend that I like, but he had a real problem with alcohol. I don't mean I think he drinks too much. I think he would drink in order to turn into incidents where he had to be restrained or held down or police had to be called, stuff like that. I still like the friend. I don't control the friend's whole life, but I'll hang with that friend if he's not drinking. Now he has, since he stopped drinking, I guess, he's told me, but I'm not with him every second. But I know one thing, if he breaks out the vodka while we're together, I will leave.
Yes. Like Ms. Grant says, for example, like abusive partner. And like, never thought about it. A friend could be somebody that they're like in a situationship with. And that gets really tricky, I think, when it's somebody that somebody is in a relationship with when talking about this. But whether it's somebody in a relationship or a friend, still broach the situation the same way, because obviously that person is there and it's fulfilling some type of need or want that they may have, and that's their choice. I always say we all have choices. Everybody chooses differently. So definitely just kind of be mindful of the way that you're broaching it.
Right. If I was friends with somebody that I even had concerns they were being abused, or once I was fairly certain, they don't mean it. They just hit me because they love me so much they get passionate. Right. That's like a common rationalization. So now I would say, well, listen, I love you a lot too. I love you so much I can't bear to see you get hit or even know that's happening. So here's the situation. I'm here when you want to get out of that situation. I'm here for you. But in the meantime, it's too hard for me to talk to you and you have a black eye, or I'm talking to you and then suddenly I hear yelling in the background. Then you go, oh, I gotta go. Like we're kids. You know what I mean? I find that unbearable. So I'm not giving you some ultimatum. I'm telling you right now that I'm going to have some distance because I can't bear that, but I can bear the minute if you want help or you need somewhere to stay or you want to make moves out of that, then I'm like at your beck and call.
Yeah, that's a good point. That's hard to draw the line where you feel like you're abandoning or leaving that person. But if you're really struggling with that dynamic, you got to take care of yourself, and it's a hard line to draw, but it's a necessary line to draw because nobody's gonna be there for you when you're struggling after that conversation or overthinking the situation. So I love that. That was a really good point. So I just condensed this just a little bit, but it's fine. I'm a 45-year-old single mom of 2 kids. I'm learning how to put me first, but have not always done that in relationships. The other part is I always thought I would be somewhere different in life. But how can I stay consistent with putting me first while in relation? How can I stay consistent with putting me first while dating and being in relationships?
What do you think putting me first means, Celeste? What do you think that means?
Put me first. I'm learning how to put me first, but I have not always done that. How can I stay consistent? I think when people get into, so I'm 45-year-old single mom of 2 kids. One thing I've known about women with kids, especially as we get older, they start to devalue themselves sometimes, and kind of accept anything that comes their way. Because of, I think, the way society has framed it, or just, I think sometimes people feel like relationships create value, right? When you're single, people say, well, why are you single? When you're in a relationship, people never say like, why you're in a relationship. So I feel like people don't put themselves first because finally I've been chosen, or finally somebody sees me. And so like, if somebody's seeing me, I can't put me first. I mean, that's what they may think, right? But you could absolutely put yourself first. I can't put me first because, like, I have this opportunity. So I think what putting myself first is probably has to do with the way that person treats themselves.
Yeah, and I definitely hear that. I oftentimes, when I hear someone say "put me first," they oftentimes say something like, "Well, listen, I've been a mother. My kids are now 19 and 21, and I've been a mother since I was young, and I really didn't get to live my youth, or whatever it is, and I've always been doing for others, and now I'm gonna put myself first." That's what I think of. I'm not saying that's definitely what this.
That's
person
another point, yeah.
Right, and also what you're saying, that sometimes people become they feel they get subsumed in a relationship, right? So I don't know if you've ever known a couple, right? You talk about codependence and levels of codependence, right? When somebody puts someone else's emotions before their own. So, for example, you see a couple where part of it is just like, well, yeah, now that I love this type of movie, but my mate doesn't love them, so now I never watch those. I haven't seen one of those in 4 years because my mate doesn't like it. Instead of saying, well, sometimes I get to pick the movie, or some nights I go up by myself or with my friends that like that kind of movie, they just say, whatever you don't like, I'll cut it because your preferences dominate my life.
I know.
And I do think that, any of those could be an interpretation of put me first, but they all stem from a certain thing of knowing yourself and knowing your values, knowing your non-negotiables, being somebody that says, well, you know what? I've determined, for example, that I do this. Like let's just say, for example, I'm in a salsa class, right? Because I always wanted to dance. And when I had little kids, I couldn't dance, but now I'm going to dance. And then you say, okay, well, but you get with a guy and he says, oh, you going to dance with strange men? No. So am I going to go salsa dance? No, I don't like salsa. Okay. So the only alternative is I quit salsa? No, I don't agree. You know what I mean? Either you salsa with me, I could accept that, or I take this class and you shut the fuck up. I could accept that, but I don't accept that I have to cut pieces of myself off for you. And you have to decide that to some degree before it comes up. Like, you just decide, this is what I'm going to do. These are my limits. These are my non-negotiables, and I don't negotiate them. This is important to me. Some things aren't like that. Right. But if you have a mate, let's say, and they just say, listen, I'm a dog person and we got to have a dog. At a certain point, like that person, it's like, they say, I'm a dog person. It adds so much quality to my life. And I've always been a dog person. So are you, like, if you're with me, choosing me is choosing also to have a dog. And I actually think that's valid. Anything you set like that is valid as long as you're willing to take the consequences, which is maybe that person will put up with it, or maybe they won't. When I say put up, maybe that person will accept it, or maybe they won't. So that's how I think you do it. You kind of have it. You don't want to have a list of 5,000 things, but there's some core, core of who you are. If maybe you don't have to do salsa, maybe you do bachata, but the idea that I can't dance because you're jealous is too far. The idea that I can never have a dog.
mhm.
You're not even severely allergic. I just can't have any pets because you just think it's a waste. I don't accept. And that's how I think you do it. It's not putting
Yeah,
yourself
and
first,
so
but setting a limit.
yeah, but in order to set the limit, you have to know what that is. And I think a lot of times we go in relationships very blindly. My husband was adamant about no cats because he has allergies, and I've always been a cat person. But it wasn't a deal breaker. I'd
Right?
say that lightly. No, but it wasn't a deal breaker. But I always wanted my, a cat or whatever. When he was dating me, like at my house, I had a cat and he dealt with it, but would just shoot the thing away. But I knew that from the beginning that he hated cats. So I I could either, change and not have a cat, which I did. I don't regret it though. Or
Well, then he could agree to live with allergies in the house that he lives in. He could. You
He could.
recognize it's not unreasonable to say, look, man, cats give me the equivalent of a cold. I'll have a cold all the time as long as there's a cat in this house. I don't want to live 40 years like that. I don't want to. I'm very sympathetic to that idea versus just like, I think cats are ugly. Like, I think you could flex on that a little bit, buddy.
Yeah. I want to say, hey, Miss P Love. So she says, why does it seem like when you begin to love yourself, set boundaries, it seems like people in your life disappear or stop communicating with you? So I would say it doesn't seem like it actually happens. It's not in your head. One of the things that happens, I think, before setting boundaries is that we are, our environment it looks like what it looks like in our inside. So if I'm not taking care of myself, my environment is going to show it and be very reflective of it. If I start taking care of myself, I've already conditioned the people in my life that it's okay to use me or to do whatever. And now I'm taking care of myself. I'm no longer benefiting them, right? The relationship doesn't work anymore for them. And some people, they may say like, oh, okay, Celeste, you're taking care of yourself. But most people that have benefited from me not taking boundaries is going to struggle with the new status of how I'm living. So it's not in your head. It's not like it seems like they disappear. They disappear. I don't know what you want to say about this, Jeff.
Well, I think you nailed it. Usually the analogy I use is like, you're like a puzzle piece, and so you fit with other puzzle pieces. You change shape,
That's good.
you're not going to fit with them no more. You're going to fit with other people. Some people might adjust, or maybe they're more universal. But for example, if we became friends because I have a car and you want to go places, but you don't got a car, and then you get a car or I stop having a car, well, it turns out that our friendship just lost one of the main impetuses for us to get together. It's just the puzzle pieces change. And that's that. And you could, sometimes you only find out after the fact, whatever it is.
You do sometimes.
Luckily, the one thing I was just going to say, luckily, whatever shape you are, there's something out there that fits with that.
That's so dope. I love that. That's so dope. And there's a transition period that happens where you can feel alone during the process because you're trying to get used to this new system or get used to this new environment that you're creating. So I think that's why, they definitely disappeared. I think that's why we go back to the old environment because of this transition period of the loneliness that Ms. Pilov talks about. And so I think if you can remember your why, what is it that you're trying to commit to? So you're just not impulsively going back because it feels hard. You can actually transition and consistently take care of yourself and put boundaries in place because that's how you stay in living mode and not just survival mode.
Yeah, exactly. And couples where one person has severe weight loss or one person has a big change in income or economics, or, if one person gets a medical diagnosis, whatever it is, cancer, let's say, even though on TV, it's a lot about we'll make it. But in real life, that breaks people up a good amount of the time because, again, they change shape to the point where, this isn't working for me anymore. And, the phrase all's fair in love and war is just the idea that in the end, people choose friends and lovers kind of choose who they choose. And that's, although some, comment of the century said better to be alone than in bad company. I agree with that. Although you'll see many people don't choose that. Many people choose the worst thing is to be alone. So I prefer bad company. That's very common, but I think that's accurate what you're saying.
Yeah. And being alone, it looked like on TV, you don't see people having this journey. Like you see people surrounded by people, whether it's on TV, whether it's on social media. So unfortunately, we're trying to match this facade image that's not like sustainable for living. You can survive and be around bad company, but living just looks completely different. So
right.
I think that's really
montage pass on a movie. They'll have like a montage. It'll just, they skip all the hard work of like, or like somehow like the Karate Kid, he learns karate in a week from washing a car. But in reality, like winning a karate match doesn't happen that day. It happens in the months and years that you trained while other people were at the beach. And so in that same way, you're going to get your new friends just like you got your old friends slowly through life as life brings you together. Not like I threw away all my, bum friends yesterday and today come all my successful friends. It's not like that. You're going to spend a little bit of time kind of being solo as the new you gets a new climate.
Mm-hmm. That's good. I think that's important. I love that puzzle piece analogy. I might have to start using that. And this goes for you just use an analogy of like when one partner like loses weight or gets new income or whatever. That's the same scenario that happens in regular platonic friendships too, where one person gets jealous or feels less than. I mean, all these thoughts go in our head unchecked. And then it just kind of dismantles the relationship. So just kind of be mindful of what you're thinking about things. That's important. All right. So let me, so this is a work question. Let me just put it in the thing. So how can I ask my boss for a raise? I have a decent relationship with him. Not sure why it feels scary. How do you broach that question with your supervisor?
You just so you put up the other one, like the 45-year-old single mom. That's what's showing.
I wonder how. Let me see.
We can still talk about the question. How do you ask your boss for a raise? Well, the relationship's good. That's good. But, some places have a formal process. They have evaluations every year or whatever it is. And that's a great time because that's already the time for that, right? But let's imagine that let's skip whether they do or they don't. You can always ask. Now, sometimes it feels crazy to ask, right? Like 3 weeks after you just got a raise or 3 weeks after you got hired, right? Ideally, it's been a year, it's been 18 months, and you've been kicking butt, right? So then what you do is you go and I think really the crucial step is to lay out the case, not so much the moral case, right? Like you can emphasize a little bit, I work hard and I think it's right, but it's not so much other people are getting paid more than me, or I read that this is Coca-Cola, but I read that Pepsi pays their managers more. Not so much that. It's more about the value that I brought and the value that I will bring, right? So you start off, boss, listen, I'm hardworking. You gave me the Johnson file. You gave me the McCarthy account, and I knocked it out of the park. And they were 20% over. And ideally, you'd have metrics and stuff, right? They were 20% over. They were excellent. And, I'm looking forward to doing this thing and that thing also, right? This next initiative that I'm going to be in charge of, I got plans to make that. And I think that 20% is realistic for that too. And therefore, I think it would be fair to discuss compensation. I'd like to know what you think about a raise. And usually the most common thing is, well, the money's not in the budget. The money's not in the budget. Wait. And then it's just kind of a bad love. Like, well, listen, you don't want to quite say, if I don't get a raise, I'll quit. That's actually, you never want to say that. But what you say is instead you say, okay, well, if you get a no, you say, well, would it be okay to revisit this? No, because the fiscal year is not over. Okay, so then the fiscal year ends in June, so I should come back to you in June. right? No, because we didn't, the Johnson file is not done yet. Okay, so I should come back to you when the Johnson file is done. Basically, if it's a yes, stop at yes. If it's a no, or if it's a yes, if it's a wait, then it's a how long should I wait? And how long should I wait tells you whether or not this is going to happen or not. Because if it's wait a year and you already been there a year, I don't love that. That's not what I love. But if it's wait 2 months, it might actually be reasonable to wait 2 months, but then revisit it. And if at the end of 2 months, you know you've kicked butt and they say, wait a year, then you go, oh, I get it. You're just pushing me off forever. Basically, the last thing I'll say, I've been going on, but this is like kind of what I do, Celeste. The one thing I'll say is, frankly, the number one way to get ahead in this world is to work somewhere for a year, 18 months, and then change jobs. It's unlikely. If you're a program manager at X company, we'll just stick with Coca-Cola. If you're a program manager at Coca-Cola, the most likely way you could jump your salary more than 5% is to go to Pepsi. That's the most likely way. Anything over a 3 or 4% raise is like the most people get. A promotion, even so, when people stick with a company for 15, 20 years in this modern world, they find themselves underpaid. And it's best to work somewhere, vacuum out a year to 18 months of expertise. And if you don't either get a big raise or a promotion and a raise, you look elsewhere.
Oh, you're saying that that happens where like somebody's somewhere 15 years. Does that happen because they've already started you at 60, so they're not going to like jump up to 70 when another company may start you at 70, so they think they've already got enough value out of it? Is that what you're saying?
Well, that's exactly how it works. So if Coca-Cola starts me at 60, right? And then I would say I want a raise. I want a 5% raise. 5% raise is $3,000. So now I'm up to 63. But meanwhile, the range for a program manager at Pepsi is already 60 to 70. So if I just jump to Pepsi, I could maybe get 70. Then you jump from Pepsi to RC Cola, to Gatorade, to wherever it is. Because whoever you work for now, they have a big advantage. They already know what you'll work for. They already know you'll get up every day for $60,000. So you being like, I will take a penny under 75. They go, I know that's not true because you came here today for 60. But the new company doesn't know that. That's what it is.
Yeah. So, because you're saying go here. So I think one of the things people struggle with transition, and I love how you broached a question, or the way they talk to the supervisor, come with like kind of facts. It sounds like you're saying like I did X, Y, and Z and yada yada. And so like if you do hear something that says come back in 2 months, come back in 2 months, because they're not going to come back to you and be like, hey, Jeff, like remember that conversation?
You got to leave out of there. You got to leave out of there, put it in your calendar. I don't mean send them a calendar invite that day, but put it in your calendar. In 2 months, revisit. If they say when the Johnson account's over, then you know, okay, now, but again, if you've been there a year, 2 years, haven't got a raise, and then you say, time to talk about a raise, and they say, wait another year, every minute you wait, there's something called opportunity cost. Every minute you wait, you could have been getting paid more at Pepsi. So really, again, you should have a little alarm in your mind. By 18 months at a job, you should have a little alarm in your mind that says, either I should get a big raise, a raise and a promotion, or I should go elsewhere. You should not say, I'm going to stay at this one level job for 5 years, and then maybe they'll give me a raise. That's how you fall behind. Now, there's other things. Let me say there's other things that some people could say, I don't care about money. I love what I do. This is a teen center, and I love the kids and so forth, so on. I understand. But I'm just saying that if your goal is to get a lot more money, the most common way is to switch jobs. But the way to get a raise is what I said. Bring up a little bit of the past, bring up a good amount of what you will do in the future, and say, hey, look, you know, I think I'm worth this. Don't threaten to leave. Just know in your heart, it might be a no. And if it's a no, be ready to pull the trigger.
Okay, that's good. And because like you're a coach, and then after this question, I just want to kind of talk about what you do. But because you're a coach, that's good. Yeah. This person talked about fear being a part of it. How can a person reframe? Because transitioning to somewhere else, a lot of people really stay in a position they're unhappy with. They know they're not getting what they deserve. And the number one reason why is the fear of change. How do you like coach? how would you coach somebody into reframing that idea of the fear and just
Right.
focusing on like their goals?
Right. Well, laying out the case in your, like, for yourself first. Again, I made the Johnson account go up 20%. I'm going to do X, Y, and Z with this new account. Doing that alleviates some of the fear because you're like prepared, right? Preparation gets rid of some of the anxiety. You know, you're going to steer the conversation in these certain ways. And like you've convinced yourself, yeah, I have been kicking butt here. I really have. So you get a little more courage that way. Then you also accept, I'm not, whatever you think in your mind, I just keep picking Coca-Cola because we're sticking with it. I am not human Coca-Cola. I'm a person that works here. If I die, they won't even close for an hour. Right? So disentangle your identity from the company's identity and make it like this. You go, well, here's something that I sometimes tell people to do. Polish up your LinkedIn, polish up your resume before you go and talk. And here's why. Because it makes you very confident to say, hey, I would like this much, or I would like to get this much. And here's why. But if they say no, you've done all the work where you could send a resume tomorrow. Hell, send it before. There's no harm in sending it, and you can turn down an interview or go on an interview and turn down a job if you want. But do you understand the point of why you do that? To set yourself up so like almost all the work is done. Because a lot of what people are scared of is like, oh, I'll have to polish up my resume. I'll have to start going back on Idealist and Craigslist and Monster and all these things. And that feels scary. So just do all those things first. Then by the time you ask for the raise, it's really just it's like, listen, basically you want to set it up like this without saying this, but in your own heart. Either you pay me or they pay me. Me not getting paid is not an option.
Yes, I love that. That's good. And detangling yourself from the company. I think we get so engulfed in the DNA of it. And also being okay with hearing no. It doesn't mean your value is not is low. It just means they're not willing to pay your worth. I tell people all the time, I got demoted, and it wasn't that. I mean, I'm a great therapist. I do really well at what I do, but I just wasn't. I was too much for that company. And so like, be okay with saying no. Be okay with change if you want more, but you got to write down, I think, your why. What is it that I'm trying to achieve? A lot of times we're walking around aimlessly. And also, I love the idea of setting your LinkedIn up, setting your resume up so that it's already ready. And it doesn't feel like not only are you hit with the no, but, oh, I got to go do all this other stuff too. It's already done. That's dope.
You just set it up so you can. Really, you should always keep those things up and going, but most people don't. Yeah, but just polish it up, whatever it is, so that you're ready to, like, whatever happens, I'm ready. It might be a yes, it might be a no, it might be a wait, but whatever it is, almost all the pain of, me just not getting exactly what I want, almost all that pain is gone, because I know, like, well, I'm ready for all eventualities. It's like, it's like going somewhere and packing your winter jacket, your shorts, your umbrella. Like, look, I'm not worried about the weather anymore because I have something for everything.
Yeah. Oh, that's good. I love that. That's good. Oh, that's so dope. That's perfect. That's spot on. So one thing that Jeff does is that he is an executive coach. Can you explain to people like what that means and like what that looks like in real life?
Yeah. Actually, that last question, which, we didn't know, or I didn't know was coming, is a good example of what coaching looks like, right? We talk through and we talk, usually this was just my vague prescription. But usually what you do with a leadership and executive coach, talk through some of the issues. And then the goal is to figure out some potential strategies that might work, that someone's willing to try. Then they try them. Then when we come back together, you say, how did it go? Right? So it's some advice. And it's some advice. But it's a lot about the process. Because remember, I didn't say, I guarantee you this gives you a raise, for example. I can't guarantee that. I don't know what's going to happen. You know what I mean? But here's how you do it in such a way that you come out better off no matter what happens. Versus what people often do is they're too scared to pull the trigger, or they're praying for a miracle, which I think is, a low percentage way to function. And so whatever the issue is, whether it was about money, whether it's about an issue with a subordinate, whether it's about an issue with your boss, whatever it is, the same thing that we do is we examine the problem a little bit, but then we look for solutions, or we look for steps that could get us closer to the solution. And And whether it's with one person or when I do organizational and team development, or whether I do diversity, equity, and inclusion, it's actually all the same thing. It's getting around the glitches in like the human psyche, the ways that we automatically look at things that frankly are counterproductive.
So when the individual thing, I get that part. And then the organizational thing. So you go into organizations that are struggling with a specific issue and help them dissect it.
Well, exactly. So maybe they have a goal. Maybe they want to increase sales, right? So I say, okay, well then get all the sales, the sales department together and let's work out, right? We could use the grippy method, which is goals, roles, processes, and interpersonal relationships, and try to work through it and get to a place where everyone knows what they're. So to explain what grippy is, let's take like football. The goal is to score a touchdown. The role is Celeste is the quarterback and Jeff's the receiver. The process is the quarterback takes a snap and throws to the receiver. The interpersonal relationships are all the things of why this doesn't work perfectly. Oh, Celeste never throws to me. Oh, Jeff's never in the spot he's supposed to be. Right?
So you can see all that, like once you get everybody together, you can, because I feel like you have this brain where you can like look at, okay, this is going on, that's happening.
I'm not magic, but that's what we all try to work through. There's processes and things that we do to try to get it out in a very honest and candid way and just figure out, look, how can we be better? We didn't, we scored 1 touchdown this game. How can we score 2 next game? It's not no quick step to being Tom Brady, but Tom Brady wasn't born Tom Brady either. I mean, you know what I mean? He clearly did some processes that made him better. And so there are ways to do that. And that's what I do with either organizations or with individuals. Or when we talk about diversity, equity, and how am I messing up what DEI is? Inclusion, diversity, equity, and inclusion. Doing that work is the same thing. Look, you got this organization and you're all about, you got a Black Lives Matter sign, but you have 1 Black employee. That's not uncommon at all, Celeste. That's not uncommon at all.
I know.
Okay, well, look, Black Lives Matter, that's a good sign to have, but how can we be a more inclusive place? How can we include LGBTQIA++? How can we include Black, Brown, Asian, these sorts of things in a way that isn't just, well, we hired some, but like in a way where this place changes. So it's a culture change. So I doing all those things, but what they all have in common is figuring out where we're going and then getting on the bus and going there.
So a lot of transition, you help people, and it sounds like you have a really good way of helping people have more clarity around it. And I think that's where you really good at is you make it so plain and concrete and it's digestible. When you talk about these things, it's very digestible to help people kind of shift their thought process. And I think that's what we all need to do when we're finding ourselves stuck, but sometimes we just kind of stay stuck. But that's why we got people like you around.
Listen, and people like Celeste the Therapist. I really appreciate you. Change the environment, right? You're changing the culture. There's a phrase, culture eats strategy for breakfast. And so the challenge is to change the culture so that the default becomes the good thing, right? Let's say it's less in your house. You say, from now on, I'm tired of mopping every day. Everyone take their shoes off. And then you put a sign up at the front, take your shoes off. And then your daughter walks in and stomps everywhere with muddy shoes because she ain't reading no signs. She's going to watch cartoons. I don't give a shit about no sign. So then you change the culture. No, in this house, we take off the shoes, and there's various strategies where you get you can't walk by this without taking off your shoes. And you get this if you do take off your shoes, but you don't if you don't. And if you muddy it, then you have to mop. Or I just explained to you, mommy's tired and mommy doesn't want to mop. All the various ways to change the culture of the house so that eventually it becomes a no-shoe house. Oh,
so the strategy looks different than just popping up a sign and you're actually, yes.
Right. There's signs everywhere that, I'm sure there are restaurants that have the sign. I'm sure there are restaurants that have the sign that say employees must wash hands before return to work, but they have a culture of walking back and cooking your food with nasty hands.
Stop saying that.
No, I'm confident of that. And there are other places where hygiene is part of the culture. I saw 2 comments. I didn't get to read them. I saw someone say Sanctuary said, I'm a racial healing practitioner, and a lot of people say words, but their heart isn't in it. I think that's true. And I don't even attribute that to malice so much as we have what's called our ascribed values versus our lived values. So for example, Celeste, you might be a person that says it's important to get 8 hours of sleep. And it's important to get 8 hours of sleep. But do you get to bed on time every night? Maybe not.
Not every night.
You know what I mean? I'm certainly like that. I have getting good rest as a value, but not as a live value. I very rarely get 8 hours of sleep, right? Because I just don't.
Mm-hmm.
But so in the same way, a lot of people, for example, say, hey, racial equity is important because they have that as a value. But are they willing to give up power? Are they willing to do the extra work that it takes? Maybe not. And so that's what the sanctuary is, I think, referencing. There was one more comment.
Yeah.
I lost what it was.
John, hey, you for say, always be mindful of how it looks from the outside as well as the inside. And I'm sure that when you go into organizations and stuff, this is like what you do. You see the outside stuff, but then you make the inside match what's on the outside.
Well, right. Well, ideally, a big part of my practice is radical candor, because a lot of people, again, they do, they have what's called social desirability bias. So in other words, for example, I don't know, okay, Celeste, you joined a Haitian family, right? And they eat that, it's like black rice, right? It's the rice is black somehow, right? What's that called?
Yeah, let me tell you, it's called black rice. But at my wedding, half of the people were Haitian, half were American, and the Americans was hungry because they wasn't eating that black rice. But I forgot. I didn't even because I was the same way. I was smelling the food first because I was like, what is this? Because when I first started eating their food. And then now I love it, right? But so I'm all like, yeah, we're gonna have Haitian food at the wedding. Yo, the Americans, they didn't even eat the food. They was like, what is this? But yeah,
I've never heard of it. But that's so. Let's say, for example, right, that's when I say social desirability, what I'm talking about is, so let's say your mother-in-law, your husband's mother, she makes that black rice, and in your heart, I don't like the way this looks, and you taste it and you don't like it. But when you're at, let's say, Haitian Thanksgiving or Haitian when they celebrate on January 1st, Haitian Independence Day, you feel a pressure to like the rice even though you don't like it. Right? And there's a lot of, so that's just a concrete example, but there's a lot of things like that where people feel a pressure to say certain things about race or culture, or they feel a pressure to say, if I ask you in front of your boss, how do you like Coca-Cola Industries? They say, it's the best. I love it every day. It's every day's a time. Because that's what you're supposed to say versus the truth of how you feel. So my job is a lot of times to find ways to punch through that and get to the real stuff. I say punch, but I don't mean yelling at people, but it's just digging through, like, look, we're trying to get to we can't fix things that we don't address. James Baldwin said, everything that you face can't be fixed, but nothing can be fixed until it's faced.
That's so true. So yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So people end up being honest with you. It sounds like
that's the goal. That's the goal. I think that is a strength that I bring, and I think a lot of that is about being honest, just like we're honest here, like on this show. I mean,
yeah, we do, and we appreciate the audience engagement, and I appreciate all the questions that people ask. I think as you can see today in every show, it's all types of relationships. So definitely, like if you have a question and you want like a different perspective. But I feel like our perspectives tend to align a lot, but we hit it from different angles. And I think that's real life, is that there's so many ways to look at things. But I do think it really helps people shift a lot of what they've been thinking and how stuck they feel. So that's why I'm grateful for you.
I'm grateful to be on this. I'm grateful for Sally saying, wow, that's true. No one I like better than somebody that agrees with me already, Sally.
And Sally's going to be your favorite now.
There you go. Sally, friend request.
How, if people wanted to reach out to you and work with you, how could they do that?
You can hit me up on jeff@rogersleads.com. jeff@rogersleads.com. It's been on the bottom the whole time too.
Yeah, but forget this is an audio podcast. But yeah.
Get with the 21st century people.
So yeah.
Oh yeah. So they've never seen me. Oh, so talk about how I'm 6'4" and I've been doing this whole thing with my six-pack showing.
So the cover shows you, yes.
Oh, damn it.
So So what was I gonna say? Jesus. Yeah, so for people that want to ask their question, if you go to CelesteTheTherapist.com/podcast, there's a way for you to ask it, and it's anonymous. And if you want to specifically just hear relationship podcasts where we kind of dissect these different types of relationships, on the website, if you click there, it will literally give you all the episodes with me and Jeff. We have maybe about like 9 or 10. This is what we do. We literally go back and forth, and lives are changed.
Lives are changed. Listen, let's pat ourselves on the back. We're out here changing lives. I don't want to say that I'm the Martin Luther King of 2021. I don't want to say that, but I'll let others say
it. Thank you, Jeff. I appreciate you for being here, and I appreciate your time.
Thanks, y'all. See you later.
Bye. So that was a wrap. That was our relationship podcast. And I'm always grateful to Jeff for his candor and everything that he does. So yeah, go to CelesteTheTherapist.com. I'll be back tomorrow talking to somebody else who's doing something to empower other people. But only after people realize they cannot shake you, then they have, yes. He's hilarious. And I don't know, I wouldn't say he's fun like me, Robin. Like, there's no, Robin, you've been rocking with me forever. There's no other me. So I would never put him in the category with me. I'm just hating. He is. Hey, Jermaine. And then me and Jermaine have, thank you. We have a episode, Getting Your Mind Right, where we talk about different things that come up. And on the website, CelesteTheTherapist.com/podcast, you can actually watch or listen to episodes with me and Jermaine that's on there. Jermaine is another person that's extremely, I call him like a self-awareness guru. He knows how to like break stuff down and make it plain. So I know what you mean, Robin. So yeah, definitely. If you go to CelesteTheTherapist.com, so many great episodes. You know, one thing I say is that when we're stuck, when we're hungry, we go and we eat. But when we're like stuck and when we're spiritually struggling, and a spirit doesn't mean religion, it's just a relationship you have with yourself. I don't think we do nothing about it. I think this podcast, I have so many different amazing people that, sorry, hold on. Bella, I'm live. I have so many amazing people that have come on and shared their story and have really helped us like really think about things differently. So I appreciate y'all so much for rocking out with me. And I'll be back tomorrow. Go to CelesteTheTherapist.com to learn more, and I will talk to you all later.
It is 65 days, but I treat every day like it's my last. I'm only concerned with building on the future, cause I can't change my past. Positive vibes for positive lives. She just giving you that truth and shifting your mind. It's more mental than you realize. It's up to you to take control, cause this world is cold and negativity gon' take its toll. Now we've been told any day could be your last. I'm embracing every moment and I cherish every laugh, every smile, every hug, every kiss, every touch, every person in my life that I care about and love. But wait, maybe I'm getting too emotional. That's exactly what they say you ain't supposed to do. Suppress your feelings, never talk about your pain. Can't appreciate the sun without acknowledging it rains, right? That's right. So this a moment of clarity. And make sure you always protect your energy. You stay focused and your life gon' be lit. And you are now rocking with Celeste the Therapist.